Yeah, we weren't pleased with how we played, really defensively in general on last Thursday night. Um, Part of it was just the unknown. They had a lot of stuff that we hadn't practiced for, and our guys it just took a while for us to adjust to it. They did a nice job of just running the quarterback, nickel and dime, just keeping things alive. We helped them with a few missed tackles as well. So it was a good game to get their attention. Defensively, this is a completely different offense, and a different set of questions that we asked compared to what we saw a week ago.
Chip, go ahead.
Yeah, Manny, and listen to your radio show last night. You mentioned that football sometimes can resemble 22 cavemen on the field beating each other over the head with clubs. Looking at Saturday's game, do you think this might be a game? There are a lot of X's and O's involved, but just a game of toughness, mental and physical toughness that decides this one?
I do think. I do think. I mean, first of all, to win any game, you have to have that. Certainly against an opponent like Illinois. Um, but when you look at it, two teams who were so good in the fourth quarter a year ago, um, you almost have to assume in a matchup like this. I think both teams will show toughness. I think both teams will show resiliency. I think they have a team that, no matter what the score, they believe their quarterback can bring it back and win. And I think we have a team that feels the same way. So, um, I think the toughness is required. I think the execution will determine it. Um, you know, can the heat play a factor, and who's able to stay on the field and can sustain drives and all that? I do think that'll matter. And I think that will also make depth an issue. You know what I mean? And so it's not just like, because even like when you say about like toughness, it's like, well, we just kind of talked about this as a team. It's like, well, is it the first 11 guys that have that mindset? Is it, where do you find the guy who will flinch? And part of that might be, as you get down the road a little bit. So it's got to be everybody, because when you have two teams that are so good in late game situations, it's everything counts.
Hey, one quick follow-up too. In talking to the players yesterday, they mentioned this could be a showcase for Duke football in the program, not just a big non-conference game. Do you kind of view it that way too, playing a ranked opponent, Big Ten opponent, TV
I don't,
exposure?
I don't think about it in terms of showcase and exposure. What I think about us is just a continuing step for a program of evolving, and we want to be a showcase game because Duke is there. You know what I mean? That we make it a big game just by our buses pulling up to the stadium, and then I'm just curious to watch. The most important thing is just, do we play within character, right? Or do we make it? If you try to play like it's a big game, people generally play out of character. They do things they don't normally do. Um, I just want to see us be us, and trust that our us is enough, and that's a challenge. You don't really know that until game day, but I think that's kind of the exciting thing as you grow a program, is believing that you're good enough.
Jim, go ahead.
Yeah, hey Manny, good morning. Um, you, you kind of already answered the question I was going to ask you about winning the fourth quarter against a team that also thinks it owns the fourth quarter. I don't know if you wanted to add anything to your answer to Chip's question.
No, I just, I don't, I think, like I said, I think it's strength on strength, and it should be exciting to see how it turns out.
Okay. Well, let me add one question to that. We've talked earlier about the benefits of special teams in winning close games. Your special teams had some spectacular hits against Elon, but a few miscues. What do you think your special teams are right now, and what do you need from them Saturday?
Well, it's gonna be a game where everything matters. You have two teams that both ran a punt back for a touchdown a week ago. You have two teams that didn't punt very much last week. Um, their kickoff specialist kicks the ball like into the stands. Um, Field goals will matter. We always finish our Wednesday practice with end of game situations with the 1 minute drill, and it was Polino, I think, just hit like a 55-yarder to win the game for the offense. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a game where those type of things matter. Specialists, um, because points, in close games, every point matters. So, anytime you line up in a kicking formation, it's a chance for either an explosive player for points.
Thanks.
Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Manny. I know with the way college football scheduling is done, it's done so far out, you can't really plan on if a team's going to be good or not. But to get an opportunity like this, given that the ACC's kind of gone to, valuing viewership, to get a chance to play against the top 11 team at your place, are these the kind of games you'd like to see Duke schedule if they can, given the fact that, scheduling does take place so far out?
Well, like you said, scheduling is a weird dynamic, and no one knows what the future lies in terms of how many conference games everyone's going to play, and so there's a lot of unknown for what's going forward. What I know is the best way to get eyeballs on our games is to get Duke better, and that's my point. I think it's awesome that Illinois is ranked what they're ranked. I'd like to think that we have a hand in the fact that the game is, the new ESPN kick as well. So we're just trying to raise the stature of our program. A lot of our schedules are already booked out, for the foreseeable future. And like I said, I think everybody's kind of in a little bit of a waiting mode to find out what the future of college football scheduling looks like anyway.
Do you have a preference on, you guys don't have that big, in conference at a non-conference in-state game like some of your other teams in the ACC do. So would you prefer to go to 9 conference games? Would that make it easier for you to schedule, or?
I think it'd be awfully strange to be the only conference not at 9 conference games. That's my thought on that. Just usually when you're the only one doing something, it's either really good or really bad. It just feels like you would want continuity into whatever he does in college sports.
Andrea, go ahead.
I'll ask you one more, Manny. You mentioned the other day in your press conference that there's a lot of guys still at Illinois from when you were at Penn State. I'm wondering just how much of an advantage you feel like it gives you guys, because you do have the familiarity with not just the players, but the things that Brett likes to do there.
Yeah. Well, there's two ways to look at that, right? Yeah, we've seen those guys and we've seen their schemes, but the flip side is they've seen our guys, they've seen our scheme. They went to State College last year and played a pretty tight game up there. The fact that I recognize a lot of those guys from 2023 means that they've got a lot of experience, right? I think, they're one of the most experienced teams in the country. For sure they are in the Big Ten. So I don't know. I think I'd rather have a much more inexperienced team of guys that I'm less familiar with than what they show. What I do see is a team, a little bit like the question we had earlier, a team from when we went there in September of 23, when they were coming off maybe not a great year, they built, they got better and better that year, and then they won their game against Michigan at home a year ago. That was kind of their game that, and then I think that really helped propel them through the rest of their season, and then beat an outstanding South Carolina team in the bowl game. So I think that's the learned experience of how do you get in those games and then play better against, quote unquote, top competition. And again, a lot of that, what I see from Illinois is what they've done is they've done a better version of being themselves, which is exactly what we're trying to do here at Duke. It's just to get our best good enough to beat your best. And if you look at the 2 Penn State games in 23 and 24 and how much closer it was on the scoreboard, and like I said, then you beat Michigan, you beat South Carolina, and I think that's why they're ranked what they're ranked right now. And I think that's why Brett's a great program builder, and it's a great sort of pathway or blueprint for what we're trying to accomplish here at Duke.
And one more to the follow-up to what I asked earlier. I know this is a different challenge offensively because Altmaier doesn't run the way the Elon quarterback runs. So what is the difference in terms of the approach with the run defense when you are facing a team that does run through a couple of backs and maybe doesn't have that running quarterback threat?
Yeah, the schematics of defending the power read, which we hadn't practiced all August, kind of unnerved us a little bit last week and allowed them to stay on the field in the second quarter. This will be a mid zone, inside zone, gap scheme. Can you do you enjoy fitting up the run, and do you enjoy doing it again and again? But it's not just old time Big Ten football. I mean, they're really good throwing the football. They've got new targets on the outside that show that they're dangerous. And like anything else, the more numbers you deploy to try to stop the run, and the more you focus there, the more you potentially leave yourself open to explosive plays in the passing game on the back end. And the one thing I'll say about Altmaier is that he does a great job of buying times with his feet, and he can scramble and hurt you with his legs if it all breaks down. So it's just what you'd expect. It's a complete offense, multiple tight ends. They can line up with 3 in a formation, multiple backs that they like that all kind of present something different to you. But I think our guys are dialed in. They're excited for the challenge, and I think the idea of what they expect is to see if they can stand up against a very experienced offensive line and a good stable of backs.
And Chip, close us out here with the last question.
Yeah, Manny, I'm not sure if we ask you Monday, but as a coach, do you like noon starts under a bright sun, or do you prefer games under the lights where the atmosphere might be a little bit different?
Generally speaking, normally at home, you'd rather play later in the day. Give the your fan base a chance to get there and be fully lubricated for the contest. On the road, I'd like to play at 9 a.m. if we could. You want to wake up and just play and get home as soon as possible. Like Little League football, I'd take the 8 a.m. start if that was available on the road.